Alright, so today we're going to start with the slider block. The slider block is drawn on this particular drawing as a three-dimensional part. When we draw this one, we're only going to need to draw the front view. That's what's listed right there. So we want to make sure that we just draw the front view and you don't have to worry about the 3D. Alright, so looking at the angles, this is important to understand. We have to remember that AutoCAD is set up with our polar coordinate. Our 0-degree angle is over to the right. We have 90 at the top. We have 180 here. So that works both in clockwise and counterclockwise. So if we were going clockwise, it's 45 degrees would be down here. 45 degrees is right here when we're going counterclockwise. So we've got to look at this angle right here. So we've got 60 degrees, and that is in this quadrant. So we've got 60 off of the vertical line. So we always have to remember that we need to add the 90 plus the 60 in order to get that angle. So it's kind of like if you drew a line out here, this is 0. You've got to take into account for that whole entire angle when you're laying this out. Alright, so let's get started on our drawing. Alright, so I've got my AutoCAD open here. I did move the little PDF file over here, so I suggest opening up, your PDF file of your parts. Leave that sitting over here. Once you click on AutoCAD, it kind of overlaps. So that's just kind of a nice way to have that sitting there, and you don't have to look down at paper, or you don't have to keep flipping back and forth. So I turned my grid off to make sure it was easy for you to see. There's a few things I wanted to check. I want to make sure my dynamic input is on. I'm going to go ahead and start with my ortho on. I'm going to probably turn that off when I have to do my angles. I've got my object snap tracking on and my object snaps. So I'm going to go ahead and start my line from the 0, 0 point. And let's zoom in to where we can find that. So looking across the bottom, that line is 4.5 inches long, and it goes up 1 inch. Oops. So this is where I was talking about the actual angle. So right now, you can see that this is at 0. I'm going to turn ortho off. I just hit the F8 button. So we're at 90 here, and then I need to go 60 degrees here. So I'm going to type in the length of the line, which is 3.5. Nice that that's given to us. Hit the tab button, and then type in 150, because that's the 90 plus the 60. So hit enter, and that will be the end of that line right there. I don't know the length of this line here, so I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to work my way back around the other side. So back to my endpoint. We have object snaps on, so you should be able to get that. Now we have another line at an angle, so we have 1.5 inch line at 60 degrees. So I'm going to pull my mouse over at 1.5 inches, hit the tab button, and this time we have to calculate again. So 90 would be vertical, but it's 60 degrees off of 180. Alright, so it's not 90 plus 60 this time, it's 180 minus 60. Okay, so that's important to understand that. So that's coming off of the horizontal axis, so that's 60 degrees up. So 180 minus 60 equals 120, and that gets us our line right there. And now we just simply tie that off up at the top, and that is the perimeter of that object. So because I started this point at 0, 0, so it's going to be a little harder to do the coordinates or the X and Y coordinates for the 0. So this time I'm going to just draw some reference lines, and if I use reference lines to lay out the circles, I need to make sure that I go back and erase those at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and lay this one out. This one is 1 inch from the corner, and it's 1/2 inch up. And remember that symbol right there means that is a diameter of 0.5. So I'm going to start back with my line command over on the endpoint, go over 1 inch, come up 0.5, turning my ortho on by using the F8 button, or simply click on that little button right there. So I'm going to go 0.5 up, and that gives me the center point of that circle. So that circle, I know the diameter, so I'm just going to stick with using the circle diameter command. That way I don't have to calculate the radius. I know it's 0.5, and that way I don't have any room for error on my math calculations. and I don't have any round and error. So now I'm just clicking on that line that I used. You can either click on it or you can draw a window around the object and then hit the delete button and you can erase that. So on to the second hole. The second one is 3.5 inches off of this edge, so 3.5. Okay, and then looking at your drawing, 1 inch up. So that's the center point of that hole. Looking at the information, that is a 1 inch diameter. So back to the circle diameter command, pick the end point, 1 inch diameter, erase my construction lines, and delete. And there we go. And that's it for slider block. Make sure you save this as slider block inside your Z drive and you will be done.